The following podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is your number one source for the best deals on sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, and a whole lot more. Go to SeatGeek.com or download the SeatGeek app and use promo code BLUESEATS for $20 off your first purchase. That's promo code BLUESEATS only at SeatGeek, the official ticketing partner of From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast. Let there be live. What's going on, Rangers fans? My name is Jimmy Fanizzi, and this is From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast presented by SeatGeek. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BlueSeats94 and use the hashtag BlueSeats to interact with us on any and all topics at hand. Also, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and on all audio platforms, and be sure to rate us 5 stars. It would mean the world to us. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button as well. Helps out tremendously. And yes, you can actually see my face for the first time in quite a while if you are watching on YouTube. I finally got myself a new webcam. I hope this is not the continuance of a webcam jinx. So far, so good. So it's just nice to have some visuals on YouTube for the first time in a little while. But anyway, that's beside the point. Make sure you follow the Hockey Podcast Network on all social media as well at HockeyPodNet. We have wall-to-wall coverage of every single team in the National Hockey League. All right, so it is currently the All-Star break at the time of this episode, so I figured, why not do a fan Q&A? I took to social media and to our YouTube channel, and I asked you to send any questions that you may have about the Rangers, and quite surprisingly, we did get a few questions. I personally was not expecting any questions, but we did get a few. So firstly, I want to thank everybody who did send questions. I truly appreciate it. And if this episode gets enough support, maybe I will do another Q&A in the future, maybe at the season's end. So stay tuned. There might be more information to come on that depending on how this does. But with that being said, let's dive right into these questions. So the first question actually comes in via YouTube from my good friend Andrew H. He always tunes into the live stream. Shout out to you, Andrew. He says, Jimmy, my boy, what got you into hockey and decided to become a Ranger fan? Well, that's a very good question, Andrew. And again, thank you so much for submitting your question. And shout out to you, my man. You are awesome. Much love. And I really appreciate all of your love and support over the years. What got me into hockey initially? Funny you mentioned that. My first exposure to an actual live NHL game, like in-person NHL game, was actually a Devils game, if you can believe it. I was in elementary school, and a childhood friend of mine and another friend of mine, along with his dad, meaning my childhood friend's dad, he had season tickets to the Devils. The Devils were playing Tampa Bay at the time. And it was after school, and my friend says, you know what? I have an extra ticket. Do you want to come with me and my friend? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? It'll be a good time. And, obviously as a little kid, I didn't understand everything that was going on because I was just getting into hockey for the very first time. But with that being said, I had the time of my life that night. Now, I don't remember the actual result of the game, and I forget exactly what year it took place, but I do remember it being a little over 20 years ago. But needless to say, it's ironic that a Ranger fan got his first exposure to hockey from a Devils game. So I guess thanks, New Jersey-ish. But no, it really was a blast. That was my first exposure to hockey. That made me become a hockey fan. But what made me become a Rangers fan? You can thank my mom for that one. My mom grew up a Ranger fan, so she decided to raise me into one. And obviously, I was very, very young when they last won the Stanley Cup. I was 2 months old, and you can probably tell my age there. But I digress. But even still, I've got my mom to thank. My family really isn't hockey centered except for me, my mom, and my grandparents. My dad does watch it, but he's not really into it like the rest of us are. My mother grew up watching Ron Duguay. She would show me a bunch of Ron Duguay highlights. And funny story, I actually took a family trip to the Garden back in 2012 to see the Rangers take on the Capitals. And Ron Duguay was actually walking up the stairs to go do his pregame show. And my mom immediately noticed him. And I said, Mom, who is that? She says, don't you know that's Ron Duguay? I said, oh, wait, that's the guy with the long hair I kept mentioning as a kid. She said, yes, that's him. And we were initially going to stop and say hi to him, but he didn't really turn out to be the nicest person. He didn't really talk to us. That's the bottom line there. But the good news is we did end up meeting Adam Graves at that game, and Adam Graves turned out to be a very genuine human being. He was one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And, Adam Graves definitely defines what it means to be a New York Ranger. He embodies it. So for Adam Graves to take some time out of his very busy schedule to not just say hi to me, but to take a picture with me as well. And yes, for those watching on YouTube, if you can't tell in the background there, that little picture underneath the Ranger banner is a picture of me and Adam Graves. I'll post it on social media for those who are unable to see that at Blue Seats 94. And underneath that picture is the ticket from that game in 2012 against the Capitals that he himself signed. So that is how I instantly became a Ranger fan. I mean, granted, I was watching the Rangers partially after my first experience at the Devils game, but what really got me into the Rangers was that moment right there. It's moments like that really make me appreciate the sport of hockey a lot, because these athletes, for the most part, are very, very genuine. They're really friendly to their fans, and they just want you to know that they care about you and they appreciate the love and support that you give them over the years. And Adam Graves definitely was one of those athletes. So the Devils game is how I got my first exposure to hockey in general. But that whole experience with my mom giving me Ron Duguay highlights, to Adam Graves saying hello to me and chatting with me for a little bit at the Ranger game in 2012, that is how I instantly became a diehard Ranger fan. So thank you again, Andrew H., for submitting that question. I really do appreciate it. Next up, we're going to take to Instagram for a couple of questions. And the first one comes in from my main man, Adam Goza, at Goza18.77. Shout out to you, my man. You are awesome. Always appreciate the support on the live watch-alongs and for the show. He asks, who is the most underrated Ranger player or players currently on the team? That's a tough one, man, because, you think underrated, you think that players that are having a really good season and it's not really being talked about that much. Now, you could make an argument for a guy like Vincent Trocheck, who just is absolutely on fire and was just named to the All-Star team. And congratulations to Vincent Trocheck. But if you give me a second to pull up Vincent Trocheck's numbers here, so far this season, Vincent Trocheck, in 49 games played, has 15 goals, 31 assists for 46 points, and a plus-minus rating of +0. A damn good season for Vincent Trocheck, in my opinion. That, yes, he was named to the All-Star team, but I really don't feel like it's getting as much attention as Artemi Panarin, if you get what I'm saying. So I would consider Vincent Trocheck underrated, but you really want to know my real answer? It's Will Cooley. And I know what you're going to say. Oh, it's not really showing on the score sheet. Hear me out for a second. In 49 games played, Will Cooley has 8 goals, 6 assists for 14 points, and a plus-minus rating of +3. But if you really think about it, Will Cooley has been all over the ice almost every single night. He's making a bunch of great defensive plays. He's helping out his goaltender. He's an enforcer. He's forechecking. He is literally doing almost everything every single night for the Rangers, and he's a rookie. I know the Rangers are in a really bad slump right now, but the top 3 guys that you still have to look at that are actually doing their jobs are Panarin, Trocheck, and Will Cooley. I know it may not show on the score sheet, but if you actually look at his style of play, Will Cooley is doing everything that you could ask for in a rookie and more. So to fully answer your question, Goza, I would definitely say the most underrated player or players to me so far on this Rangers roster are Vincent Trocheck and most definitely Will Cooley. So thank you again to Goza for that question. I really appreciate it. Before I actually get into the next question from Instagram, I got this next question from my job outside of this. I ran into a customer who asked me this question, and I wrote it down specifically for this episode. The guy's name is Joe. I didn't get his last name, so I apologize, Joe. If you're listening, thank you so much for submitting your question. I appreciate it. But Joe asked me straight up, and I really wanted to respond to this because I'm hearing Ranger fans all over social media talk about this, and I just really need to address it. He asked me straight up, do you think that the Rangers will trade Igor Shesterkin at the end of the season? And my simple answer to that is no. Absolutely not. If the Rangers even think about trading Igor Shesterkin, they're out of their minds. Now, I understand that this season for Igor is not that great. He's not having a Shesty-like season. There's no question about that. I'm not absolving him from anything. But with that being said, any Ranger fan out there who actually thinks that the Rangers need to trade Igor does not know hockey. Now, you can come at me with the save percentage and the goals against average and all that other stuff. Again, I get it. It's not good. But again, do you see the way the team around him is playing right now? It's hot garbage. If the team around you does not play good, then your goalie is not going to look good. Especially when you are turning pucks over behind your own net, a la Eric Gustafsson, but that's beside the point. The team's got to play better in front of Igor. Period. End of sentence. Same thing with Jonathan Quick, although Jonathan Quick is having a much better season than Igor is right now. I'm not going to deny that. But even still, Igor is not going anywhere. But I will say this. You do have to decide if you want to sign him to a long-term contract. Shesterkin's going to be a free agent at the end of the 2024-2025 season. And in my opinion, that is when the decision is really going to come down to whether or not they want to sign him long-term. Now, if they're smart, they will. Because I don't think that this Igor Shesterkin that we're seeing now is the same Shesterkin that we're going to see down the line. He's going to get his form back. So all you fans out there need to calm the heck down. All right? He's going to be fine. It's called a slump. Look, we can call him out for a bad game. We all do. But when your team only relies on elite goaltending every single night like the Rangers do, that's a problem. It is a big problem. Because when they started 18-4-1, everybody was doing their job. They were actually scoring in bunches. They were actually playing defense. They were helping out their goalies. They were doing everything right. And now all of a sudden, nothing is working. Absolutely nothing. And again, Igor is not the sole reason why the team is bad right now. Everybody sucks. Okay? So, to fully answer Joe's question, the Rangers should not trade Igor Shesterkin, nor will they trade Igor Shesterkin. But whether or not to sign him to a long-term contract is a whole nother story. The Rangers are not going to let this guy go for nothing. So, again, Joe, thank you for your question. I'm glad I ran into you at my job. You're a very nice guy, but the Rangers are not going to let Igor Shesterkin go via trade or via free agency. We got more questions coming up, but first, a quick word from our sponsors at DraftKings. Looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58? DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. The San Francisco 49ers are the favorites at -2, and I am taking the 49ers to win it all. But that's just me. What you want to bet on is up to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. All right, we are back with more of your fan questions for this fan Q&A episode of From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast. Again, we are presented by SeatGeek. Use promo code BLUESEATS at checkout for $20 off your first ticket purchase. That's code BLUESEATS only at SeatGeek, the official ticketing partner of From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast. So let's go back to Instagram where we have a couple of more questions here. This one comes from a very good friend of mine, Paul Falcone at PSFALC95 on Instagram. He writes, should the Rangers go for Monahan and what right wingers? And what would you give up to acquire such players? And what is considered overpaying? Geez, that's a mouthful, Paul. Well, first of all, the Rangers cannot go after Sean Monahan any longer because he is now with the Winnipeg Jets, whom they've acquired in a trade for him. So that is no longer on the table, nor is Elias Lindholm on the table because he got traded to the Vancouver Canucks. So neither of those players are on the table. But who do I think they should go after? I would like Frank Vatrano back. So far for the Ducks in 50 games, he's got 22 goals, 14 assists for 36 points, and a plus-minus rating of -13. He's having a pretty good season for Anaheim. I know Anaheim is rebuilding, but Vatrano's definitely proven to be a big bright spot for them this year. No question about it. Now, I know you're going to tell me that his stats were not that impressive with the Rangers in his only season there in 21-22, but I really don't think he was given that much of a fair shake. I think he deserves to come back here and be given another chance to show what he can do. You see what he's doing in Anaheim? He can do that exact same thing for the Rangers. He can definitely solve a lot of their offensive issues. So I would love to see Frank Vatrano back. Chris Drury should be on the phone right now with Anaheim to find out what it would cost for a Frank Vatrano reunion. Now, I know what a bunch of other fans are going to tell me. What about Vladimir Tarasenko and Anthony Duclair? Yes, it would make more sense to get either of those guys back for financial purposes. I totally understand that, and I would love to have either of those guys back. But even still, if I'm Chris Drury, I'm at least on the phone with Anaheim to find out what it would cost to bring back Frank Vatrano. Now, if it turns out that it's going to cost a couple of top prospects and a couple of draft picks that might be a bit hefty for him, I would hang up the phone. But we don't know what exactly it would cost to bring him back. It could cost a couple of draft picks. It could cost a prospect. Who the heck knows? But if you're going to tell me that a trade is going to cost Kaapo Kakko, because I've been hearing a ton of rumors that Kaapo Kakko is actually being shopped. If the Rangers trade him, in my opinion, they're making a massive mistake. I understand that it hasn't panned out for Kaapo Kakko, but keep in mind, he's been hurt. He just came back. And have you ever heard of a thing called player development? Kaapo Kakko has not been given the chance to be developed correctly. Plus, again, he's been hurt. So I do not think it would be fair for the Rangers to trade Kaapo Kakko. But with that being said, if that's what it takes to help out their offensive issues, if Chris Drury thinks it's the right move, then it's the right move. I would disagree with it, but if it helps, it helps. I would hate to see Kaapo Kakko go, though. So, with that being said, to answer Paul's question, I would either go for Frank Vatrano, Anthony Duclair, or Vladimir Tarasenko. Either one of those three guys would be just fine with me, as long as it's not a hefty cost. And then Paul also asks me what is considered overpaying. So let's say that I'm the GM of a team and I trade for a guy that I see as having one of the best seasons of his career. Let's say, for argument's sake, Vladimir Tarasenko is having the best season of his career, right? He's with the Ottawa Senators right now. But this is only for argument's sake. I'm not saying this is officially going to happen, nor is this real. So please do not quote me on this. But let's say I trade for Vladimir Tarasenko, all right? And it costs me a couple of draft picks and maybe one prospect. And Vladimir Tarasenko goes out there and absolutely kills it in the regular season and the postseason. And I decide, you know what? You were so good for us when you came here. I'm going to give you a new 5-6 year contract worth X amount of dollars. And Tarasenko goes out there and absolutely craps the bed. He doesn't live up to the contract. That is considered overpaying. So I am a little worried that when the trade deadline comes and goes, the Rangers are going to find somebody who looks good and will probably look good when he comes here, but yet he craps the bed the next season. I am worried about that. But with the three guys I mentioned before, Duclair, Tarasenko, or Vatrano, I wouldn't worry about that at all. But that's to answer your question, Paul. That is considered overpaying. So thank you for your question. I appreciate it. We got another one on Instagram here from Dan Studer _. Shout out to you, Dan Studer, and shout out to the Dan and Danny Talk Sports podcast. Those guys are awesome over there. You should go subscribe to them. He asks, who was your Stephen McDonald Extra Effort Award winner, and why isn't Will Cooley? I see what you did there. Hey, listen, in all seriousness, if anybody deserves the Extra Effort Award this year, Will Cooley's definitely up there at the top. Because like I said before, he is literally doing everything that you could ask for in a young player and more. He's literally all over the place almost every single game. He truly is going above and beyond the Call of Duty this year. So Will Cooley is definitely up there for me in the Stephen McDonald Extra Effort Award. Panarin would definitely be up there, and same with Trocheck. So I'd be happy with any of those guys winning it. Or, dark horse pick, maybe Jonathan Quick should win it. But we'll find out when we get there. But Will Cooley would definitely be at the top of my list. So thank you, Dan. I really appreciate your question. We got one more question, and this one comes from Twitter from our very own Neil Villapiano at the NVP Show. Go subscribe to Devil's State of Mind podcast. He does awesome New Jersey Devils coverage there on the network. He asks me, what are some targets the Rangers should look at for upgrades before or at the trade deadline? Well, I mentioned this before. I did mention a couple of wingers like Vladimir Tarasenko or Frank Vatrano, but the big thing for me is that they need to upgrade at the center position. Not Vincent Trocheck. Vincent Trocheck's been fine. I'm talking about Mika Zibanejad. I'm not saying trade him, so relax. I'm saying move Mika Zibanejad down a line and get somebody to replace him on the line that he was on to upgrade at the center position, because Mika is not cutting it right now. Mika Zibanejad is quietly not having a great season, especially when it comes to faceoffs. Ouch. Now, I would have said go after Sean Monahan, but unfortunately, he got traded to the Winnipeg Jets. Yes, he is an upgrade at the center position, but it would be a downgrade defensively because he's just not that good defensively. Do you want to know who I think would be a great upgrade at the center position for the Rangers? I know most fans are not going to want to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Here's a bit of a hint first. Blank. It's over. If you filled in the blank correctly, congratulations. You guessed Adam Henrique. Adam Henrique, in my opinion, would be a great upgrade for the Rangers. Yes, I know he's burned them recently. I understand that. But maybe Chris Drury can get on the phone and say, hey, listen, I know Adam Henrique has burned us a lot in the past, but he can definitely solve a lot of our offensive issues. Help us, and we'll help you with your rebuild. I don't know how the Ducks don't say yes to that. Seriously, look, if you got to give up a couple of top prospects, then so be it. I wouldn't give up Gabe Perreault, but even still, if you got to give up a couple of prospects and a couple of top draft picks to get them, so be it. As long as they don't trade Capo Caco, I'm good. So, Adam Henrique, in my opinion, would be a massive, massive upgrade at the center position for the Rangers. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's my opinion. Obviously, yours can vary, but regardless, that's just me. So, Neil, thank you so much for your question, my man. You rock, and that is going to wrap up our fan Q&A. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you to everybody for submitting questions. It really does mean a lot. And again, depending on how this goes, maybe more Q&As will come. But that's going to do it for us. If you enjoyed this content and want to keep on seeing or hearing more, make sure that you subscribe on YouTube and on all audio platforms, and please rate us 5 stars. It would mean the world to us. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button as well. Helps out tremendously. Also, make sure you follow us on all social media at BlueSeats94 and use the hashtag BlueSeats to interact with us. And I still encourage you to ask questions on social media because I want to interact with you guys on social media as well. I always love talking to fellow Ranger fans of the community. So please feel free to continue to submit questions. And hey, who knows? I might do a segment in future episodes. Again, depending on how this goes. So stay tuned. Also, big announcement. If you missed it in the last episode, I announced that next Saturday, February 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, Will Cooley is doing a very special meet and greet at the Woodbridge Brewing Company in Woodbridge, New Jersey, and I will be in attendance. There are only 50 tickets left from what I last heard, so if you have not gotten your tickets yet and you want to go, call the Woodbridge Brewing Company. That is the only way that you can get in to this event. But if you already got your ticket, and if you see me there, I will most likely be wearing this Rangers sweatshirt right here if you're watching on YouTube. Please feel free to stop me and say hello. We'll take a picture together and talk all things Rangers hockey. So that's next Saturday, February 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope to see you in Woodbridge, New Jersey at the Woodbridge Brewing Company. And once again, a fellow reminder that we are sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is your #1 source for the best deals on sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, and more. Go to SeatGeek.com or download the SeatGeek app and use code BLUESEATS for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Again, that's code BLUESEATS only at SeatGeek. Thank you again to everybody who submitted questions. I hopefully cannot wait to do more of these very, very soon. Until the next episode, I'm Jimmy Fanizzi. This is From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast. Go Blue Shirts, and I'll catch you next time. Peace!